Hello and welcome back to my channel, and I think I may have just barely avoided a reading slump. So this week I'm going to talk to you about what I'm not reading, what I'm currently reading, the few things I managed to finish reading this week, and what I'm hoping I'm actually going to read next, but we'll see. So if you've been following along, you probably have a better idea of what I have said is on my TBR than I do. At this point, my solution to trying to prevent my reading slump was to just add more books to my TBR. So at this point, I have no idea what I've actually told you I was going to read this month or was going to read next or whatever. So let me just get into it and tell you what I'm not reading in case you thought I was reading it and are waiting for me to talk about it. I'm letting you know now these next couple of books I'm not going to talk about because I'm not reading them. And that includes Effi, Briest, Moll, Flanders, the Satanic verses. Since I realized I was at the point where if I forced myself to read something I didn't want to read, I was just going to stop reading. Moving on. So all three of those books are just going to go back on my bookshelf. Nothing happened with them that I was like, I'm going to get rid of it. Other than if I can find other editions before I move of Effi and Moll, then maybe I'll unhaul those and, do the little do-si-do with them. So that's the end of what I'm not reading. Let me get into what I am reading this month, or what I did read this month, or what do I have next? Yeah, it's what I finished. So I finished 2 books this month. One of them, you could just see how this month is going, wasn't even on my TBR list and is a library book. And that is Zorrie by Laird Hunt. So I read Radium Girls. I snuck it in actually at the very end of March, even though it was on my April TBR. That's just how the whole month is gone. And I had lots of people comment, oh, you need to read Zorrie, read Zorrie, read Zorrie. And I had wanted to read Zorrie. It was on my TBR, and I actually read Radium Girls and heard about Radium Girls because I had become so interested when I heard about Zorrie. So I read Zorrie, and it was okay. I guess let me tell you what Zorrie is about first. So Zorrie is about a young woman named Zorrie who has a difficult upbringing. She's orphaned. She ends up living with a sort of curmudgeonly aunt who raises her until she's in her early 20s and then also passes away. These are not spoilers. They're sort of passing things mentioned within the first few pages of the book. And so Zorrie is left on her own in the Midwest during the Depression era of the US, and she's just trying to find odds and ends jobs and figure out how to kind of navigate life in the world, and time is just passing her by for a very, very, very short time in this book. She is a Radium Girl. And so there is some passing reference to that. Nope, if you want to know about Radium Girls, read the book, Radium Girls. Don't read this book. It's just a job she has at one point. I just wasn't a big fan of the storytelling style. I am a huge fan of I want to be told a story. I want to know about people. I want to get into their lives. And this was just, to me, one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of when it comes to shorter books is that you just don't get a lot of any of that. I didn't feel like I got enough character development, and I also didn't feel like I got enough, just background information and plot, and I just didn't get enough story. I didn't get enough story from Zorrie. I think I gave it a 3, but I think it was a guilty 3. A lot of people wanted me to read this and seemed to enjoy it. And so I think I was going to say it's a 3, but as I'm sitting here in front of you early in the morning, feeling extremely honest, it was a 2. I didn't really like it. As I'm talking about it, I was disappointed. I wanted more. I thought it would be more interesting. I didn't like the writing style. Maybe I'm just feeling whiny this morning. I don't know. Anyway, let's go on to the next book that I've read, because I have a lot more positive feelings about that. And that was A Long Fatal Love Chase. So I read this all in one sitting in a very, very fun live stream, which you can go back and watch if you want to, where I read this along and commented about it as we went with a couple other of my viewers. And we had a ton of fun with this. I know some of us were able to finish it. Some of us just got it started and hopefully finished it. This was such a surprising book. So you can see I annotated it. All my sort of hot pink tabs are all the moments in the books or passages in the books that I loved. The book to me started out a little cheesy feeling, and I was worried that it was just going to be sort of a funny read because it was cheesy the whole time. But it really picked up and improved a lot. This is a very fast paced book, in my opinion. It really just kept going from one moment to the next. After the first two chapters or so, I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to know. I'm sold. I'm bought on this character, and I want to know how this all ends. So this book is about Rosamund Vivian, who grows up also like Zorrie, kind of orphaned and not really loved by the family member who is raising her. And she reaches an age of 18, and she just wants her freedom. She just wants to be able to go out and finally enjoy life and just have wonderful experiences. And then along comes Philip Tempest. Yep, that's really his name. And there is just nothing but drama from that moment out. If you like dark romances, thrillers, chase scenes, and the like mixed in with drama and love, this may be the book for you. And yes, it's by Louisa May Alcott, which we were all like, this is nothing like Little Women at all. Probably my favorite part of this book was Rosamund herself. I was expecting her to just be sort of a weak female character that was just sort of passing out and crying and struggling along and barely making it from one moment to the next. But she was anything but. She was like rappelling from balconies, climbing on rooftops, and she was a firebrand, and she was speaking her mind. She was not taking yes or no for an answer. She was going to do what she wanted to do, how she wanted to do it, and she didn't care that this guy was stalking her. And she was just such a powerful, intelligent, and just remarkable woman. In fact, all the women in this book, I would say, were really well represented, and just, you know, were women you'd like to know and respect. And it didn't matter if they were a respectable woman in society. And this was a 5-star read for me. It's just good. Just go buy the book and read it. If you bought the book because you're hoping to read it along, read it along. Go and watch that video. It's recorded. It's on YouTube, and you can still read it along and pause it if you need to or whatever. But yeah, and I've been asked, that is not the only read along I will do, but I am just doing them sort of Barnacle Buddy read style, which means it's just going to be whatever books come up, and a lot of people seem like they're interested in reading all at the same time. So I don't know per se when the next one will be, but we'll see. Okay, so that gets me down to what I'm currently reading, which is a surprisingly large stack of books, because like I said, I just couldn't decide what was going on with my reading. So I'll start with like my book clubs and buddy reads and those things. So my family, we are still in the middle of reading Cassandra at the Wedding. We are almost at the end. We're going to talk this weekend, and then we'll probably only have one more weekend that we're talking about the book. And this book has really picked up. At first, I wasn't really sure because the writing style in this book was just different than what I was expecting, and I didn't know if I was going to like it. And the first 50 pages was still just sort of really not quite the exposition, but pretty close to the exposition and inciting event. Like, not much had really happened yet. But after that point, man, the story really picked up. So Cassandra is home on her family farm for her sister Judith's wedding to a man that none of them have met yet, and that her sister, I think, has only known for the last 12 months or so. Something is going on with Cassandra, and we're still not quite sure what. But there is definitely things that aren't right with Cassandra. My family has all sorts of guesses as to what the issues could be, and some of them I think are more likely than others, but we're having a really good time with this book, and I think we've all been slightly surprised by that, because I don't think we were that engaged after the first 50 pages. We were kind of interested, but kind of like, okay, we'll see. But now we definitely all want to know what happens with Cassandra, what happens with her sister Judith, and how is this whole story going to work out. It's interesting, and I'm looking forward to finishing this up. The other book that I am currently reading that is I guess not part of a buddy read, but kind of feels like it is the Arabian Nights. And I am very inconsistently reading 10 pages of this a day. I have definitely skipped multiple days this week. That has just been how my reading has been going. I think I mentioned last time that Shahrazad's in this overarching story that I'm just not finding that interesting. I need her to move on to another family, another kingdom, another something. So it is at a point where it's picked up slightly. So I'm back to my 10 pages a day, but it kind of threw me off for a little bit there. The next book that I have that is part of a buddy read is The Mysteries of Paris by Eugene Sue. I am still reading this as a buddy read with Stormy at Storm Reads, and we are doing 2 chapters a day now for sure. And that has gone really well. I think that was a very good decision on our part. It still leaves the reading very, very manageable and very quick, but we get just a little bit more information on the story than we were when we were doing just 1 chapter, and it's feeling a lot more satisfied. We're definitely at the point where, especially in the last day or two, we have had quite a few mysteries sort of unraveled. So I feel like we have a much better grasp of who all of the characters are, because for a while, a lot of the characters were sort of shrouded in mystery, and we didn't know their backstories or anything like that. So we just got a whole bunch of, like, almost on an info dump kind of level. Yeah, no, it was an info dump. We kind of got info dumped the background of just about every character now. And in some ways we really needed that, like, because we were feeling like, who is this person? Like, it was getting distracting wanting to know more about some of the people. So we've had some major incidences happen and be resolved. We've gotten really good background on a couple of vital characters. And now it seems like, at least where I'm at, that the storyline's about to pick back up, because there are some major mysteries that need to be solved. Like, there are missing people, there are people who don't know who they are, who our main protagonist, whose name is Rudolph, is trying to solve these mysteries. So I'm definitely getting a feel for the mysteries of Paris. There are a lot of mysteries going on in Paris, because pretty much this entire book, with the exception of an occasional ride out into the country, is all taking place in Paris. If you're interested in reading this, and you want to join us in the buddy read, we're discussing it on Storygraph. Let me know, and I will give you the, or not on Storygraph. We are discussing this on Discord, and if you would like to join us, you are more than welcome to. And it is a very easy read. Like, this translation, if nothing else, is definitely making this book accessible. There are times where it gets a little bit wordy, just because Eugene Sue tends to be just dumping info. But I would say by and large, it moves pretty quickly. It's very easy to read. And even though we are about almost 200 pages in, it will not take you long to catch up to that. Okay, the last book that I am currently reading is The Woman in White, and I am going to credit this book with preventing my reading slump, or at least preventing it from continuing on. And per usual, I'm already enjoying it. I'm already loving the characters, and Wilkie Collins for the win. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Honestly, if you want to know what this book is about, he tells you in the very first line of the book, which says, "This is the story of what a woman's patience can endure and what a man's resolution can achieve." The basic premise of this book is that there is a woman who has a mystery that needs to be solved, and she's just got to patiently wait while this man, who's not a police officer or a detective, resolves to figure out what's going on. This book is a reread for me, so I know what the mystery is, and I know how it's resolved. Like, I know what the answer to the mystery is. I remember nothing about the middle of the book, though, so I'm pretty much just here for the adventure of solving it. And then I'll also see if I actually remember the mystery of it, because I do remember at the first time I read it at the end going, wait, so is this what happened at the end? So I could have been wrong. So I guess I'll find out. But I'm looking forward to it. This is a longish book. It's about 600 some odd pages, but the print in the Barnes & Noble's Classics is pretty big. So I expect it to read a little bit faster than that, but we'll see. I don't care. I'm just happy I'm reading a book I like. And last but not least, I am going to reread Peter Pan. So I am doing this as a buddy read, which I don't think I've mentioned up to this point. And just even when my buddy mentioned her first comment, I just realized, yeah, I vaguely know what you're talking about, but my audiobook just skipped so many paragraphs in this very short novel that I don't feel like I can comprehensively give any examples of what she was talking about. So I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and reread this. If I was just reading this on my own, I would just save a reread for another time, but I want to be a good buddy reader. So that's it. That's everything. Those are all the things. Let me put it together for you to make it a whole big picture. So to make the picture complete, this is what I'm not reading, this is what I am reading, and then if we put it all together, this is what I read. So it's not horrible. We'll see how much I get through of all of these things by the next time I talk to you. Let me know what you're currently reading, and if you're in a reading slump, and we can just commiserate about how tough that can be sometimes, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!